The biggest news, in my opinion, over the last 2 weeks have been the accusations against Jay-Z.
Yes, that is correct.
Big news.
It is. Still big news.
It is. And in my coverage of this story, I've been following every little thing because I think what happened with Diddy is the biggest thing that's happened in the hip hop community, since I've been covering it. I really do. So looking at an accusation against Jay like that, to me, is big news. In covering it, I found myself being passionate about making sure both sides are told, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't have enough facts about that. And I don't want that to be true. But I'm watching the play-by-play, and I'm really watching the media coverage of it. More recently, I think that I can report the Tony Buzbee law firm that has filed this case on behalf of the accuser of Jay-Z. They said that Roc Nation, or they filed a case against Roc Nation. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Oh my gosh. So that
another new development, huh?
It's like day by day. So I'm watching this stuff, and I've been passionate about covering it and making sure like I cover both sides. Now, I'll state for the record that the accuser came out, did an interview with NBC News. You couldn't see who she was, and had a ton of inconsistencies in her story. She was autistic. She was talking about, a White House. His attorneys did a press conference with a PowerPoint showing certain press in the industry.
And a binder.
It's been a lot. So for me not to be passionate about this story, right, is just out of my character. I'm going to be passionate about it. It doesn't mean that I'm against Jay. I'm not a hater because I'm covering a story, but because I didn't see it the way other people saw it, like, oh my God, this case is fugazi, right? I'm never going to approach something like that. Like, if there's a case filed and it's reported, I'm going to report it, but I'm never going to approach it like, this is frivolous. It's just not in my nature. I'm reading you know how I am. I'm reading the case law, right? So his lawyer comes out, he basically debunks this accuser, and they're still waiting for the court to decide whether or not they're going to drop that case against Jay-Z. They're still waiting for that. So I'm watching. I'm like, are they going to drop the case now that she's come out and done this interview? And there are so many facts that just don't add up. One of the other facts is that they say that they said they spoke to her father, who said if he had drove 5 hours, because she lived in Rochester at the time, at the 2000 MTV Music Awards, right? She's saying that she came down and he picked her up from a gas station. He said he would have remembered that drive, picking her up. But, it was a long time ago. I don't know whether or not, I don't know what's going on.
That statement in itself is a little weird.
I thought it was a little fishy,
like,
too.
What do you mean you don't remember, or you would remember? That's weird.
I thought it was fishy. I thought it was fishy that they interviewed the dad, right? And that was the only thing that was reported. So there were a lot of inconsistencies in her story. Jay-Z's attorney, Alex Spiro, does this PowerPoint with select press, and he shows like, hey, this happened, that happened, this happened. This isn't true. Here are Puff's houses, in New York. I mean, these are things that you litigate in court. So the other attorney would come out and say, well, even though she said that, this was what it is. But they're litigating this case already in the media.
Yeah. I mean, they have to.
That's what they're doing. So it fascinates me, right? So, like, her father says, like, oh, I would have remembered that. And I'm like, this is just so weird to me. And that he would say that to the press, right, in an interview, and that's the only thing that I would hear from his interview. I didn't hear anything else from his interview. Where's his interview? That you mean you sat in front of this guy, right? And this is not, to say anything about, guilt. I'm not saying that. Like, and that's where I think people get it twisted with me. They're like, why are you hating on this? I'm like, this is a huge case that's being reported. So why, and look,
I think people aren't used to real journalism.
Yeah, like
right?
we're
there's so many podcasts out and everyone's calling themselves a journalist. Real journalism is talking about these issues and seeing both sides
Right.
You know
it's
what
like
I
you're
mean?
playing detective. You're like
100%. That's
okay,
what
let me
journalism
find
is.
right. And so like the
Fact checking, all that stuff like goes into play. And just because you're talking about it and you're looking at both sides, people automatically assume like, oh, she's
hating.
She's
I'm not
hating.
hating.
No,
Like,
you're doing your due diligence.
I don't want that to be true. Like that's not what I'm, and that's what kind of made me emotional, I think, on the podcast, because people were saying like, oh, you're hating, or why are you? I'm like, no. I'm asking questions, which is what I do.
Yeah,
as a journalist, right? I'm asking questions. I'm like, okay, the father said that. Wow, that is a big inconsistency. But what else did he say? Right? I'm asking those type of questions. That's all I'm doing. I'm just doing my job. I want to know what else he said. So like, if an attorney is going to argue his side. So I'm listening to Jay's attorney argue all these inconsistencies, and I'm like, okay, yeah, pretty good. Good job. That was good. What's the other side have to say?
And anyone would want to hear what the other
That's
side
it.
has to say.
I just want to know. And the latest is that the other side, the Tony Buzbee law firm, who they have really been kind of going at in the media. These two lawyers. This case has become these two lawyers going at each other. It's the weirdest thing. And but I'm watching. I'm paying attention to these two lawyers go back and forth. So this guy, Tony Buzbee, who's filed this case against Jay, and he's, he named Jay, but he initially had filed the cases against Diddy and had the hotline. Let me say that to make sure I'm fair, right? He did put up a hotline looking for victims to come out against Sean Combs. Got it. It's a little, that's also very fishy. It's a little extra, like, what you doing all of this for, right? So they're going back and forth. They're calling him ambulance chaser and whatever. But he's now claiming that Roc Nation is like sending out people impersonating people in the law to try to get his former clients to sue him. So the story is like a little, it's deep to me.
I was about to say, it's getting deep.
Right? So he's saying that there's a woman who works for that law firm and that people showed up at his former client's door, that they have them on camera. He posted a photo, and he said that they were trying to impersonate people in, like, I don't know if it was the government, in these type of positions, right? Okay. And offering them money to file lawsuits against him. This is his claim now. So it's to me, it's like one of these, like, TV shows almost. It's like a TV show.
Yeah, everything's a reality show, to be honest.
It is.
Everything.
Really.
Everything's a reality show.
So you didn't hear that?
I did not hear that.
The media didn't pick it up as much. They picked up the inconsistencies, though. They definitely picked up the inconsistencies. They didn't pick up that story as much. Yeah,
I think.
And Jay-Z's attorney, his attorneys responded. And they called the suit baloney. That was the word they used. It was good. That was a good word.
I haven't heard someone say baloney in a while.
Those suits are baloney.
That was a very early 90s term.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
That was a baloney lawsuit. But really, like, okay, there's a lot of baloney lawsuits right now. I like that word. I'm glad he used it. It was a
Can we
good word.
start using that?
It's baloney.
It's baloney. Like,
it's baloney.
We're going to start using that. Baloney.
Yeah, baloney.
When we feel like someone's lying, that's baloney.
I was particularly interested in how people were spelling baloney. Like, some people were spelling it like Baloney. It was weird.
Like Maloney, but baloney?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was like they were like, Jay-Z's lawyer says it's baloney. And it was spelled like that. And I was like, what's happening? This is really a circus.
What's happening is that people are depending too much on spell check, and they don't longer know how to spell things anymore.
Really?
And even that spell check should have picked that up. But
yeah, I know, but they put it in quotes, so I think I think they intentionally spelled it like that. I don't know. I gotta do my recon on that. Like, I gotta go back and see.
Nothing makes sense anymore.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird.
I don't know. I think it's hard when it comes to these cases, too, because, look, you have people that make these claims and all of a sudden retract their statements. Then we have, we do have people that victim blame a lot, right? Like, that comes into play. There's just so many different facets when a case like this emerges. Like, and then
But it
we're
is
talking
a big
about
case.
Jay-Z, you know?
Yeah.
We're talking about a man who has cleaned up his reputation.
Yes.
You know, I mean, unfortunately, these claims came out on the day of Blue Ivy's Lion King debut.
I know.
That was horrible.
Mufasa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First
was
of all,
horrible.
did you see who does Mufasa's voice? He is fine. Anyway.
Is he?
Fine. With
Wow.
with FWINE. Fine. Anyway, so the fact that that happened on her debut, like, that's horrible. You know, she has people, you know, kids in school,
Right.
like, you know, they're of age where they're on the internet. Like,
And that's what he said.
horrible.
And let me say this because I went in on his statement when it first came out. I did, you know. He did express a lot of concern for his daughter and what she would have to deal with as a result of these accusations. And that part of his statement was the best to me. So I will compliment that since I have gotten so much heat for going in on his very long statement. You know what I'm saying? That part sat with me. I was like, that was a good part of his statement to say that because one, as I said before, who doesn't love, you know, the family, the Carter family, right? Because they're iconic. And I think that's what makes me so passionate about this story because I'm watching them really make these accusations against someone who we've all looked up to as an icon in hip hop culture.
Right.